Our first scripture reading is from Isaiah 40, 27 to 31. Listen now for a word from God. Why do you say, O Jacob, and speak, O Israel? My way is hidden from the Lord, and my right is disregarded by my God. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. God does not faint or grow weary. God's understanding is unsearchable. She gives power to the faint and strengthens the powerless. Even youths will faint and be weary, and the young will fall exhausted. But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Our gospel reading is from Mark 1, 29 to 39. As soon as Jesus and his followers left the synagogue, they entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Now Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they told him about her at once. Jesus came and took her by the hand and raised her up. Then the fever left her, and she began to serve them a meal. That evening at sundown, they brought to him all who were sick or possessed with demons, and the whole city was gathered around the door. And Jesus cured many who were sick with various diseases and cast out many demons. And he would not permit the demons to speak, because they knew him. In the morning, while it was still very dark, Jesus got up and went out to a deserted place, and there he prayed. But Simon and his companions hunted for him. When they found him, they said to him, "Everyone is searching for you." Jesus replied, "Let us go out to the neighboring towns, so that I may proclaim the message there also, for that is what I came out to do." And Jesus went throughout Galilee, proclaiming the message in their synagogues and casting out demons. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Thank you, Betty Ann. Don't we all want to run and not be weary? I can't even walk up those stairs and not be weary. Pray with me. Spirit of God, we believe that you are here among us and within us. You are the ground beneath our feet. You are the air that we breathe. You are the sustaining force within us. So help us, God, to recognize and to perceive this. Help us to honor that force within us. And now may the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts be pleasing in your sight, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. So we use lots of words to talk about life and how we describe life, how we think about life. But one word that I hear often and that I certainly use is exhausting. I think all of us at some point on this journey have thought, life is just so exhausting. If you're anything like me, you've all had seasons in your life where you just keep telling yourself this will all be over in X amount of weeks or X amount of days, or we look for the end of the time that is exhausting, right? As I sit with others and hear people tell their stories over and over again, especially in the middle of this pandemic, I hear this exhaustion. It's not something that people always say explicitly or even seem to be aware of, but their bodies tell me that they're exhausted. I see it in the way that people sit down and there's a sigh right away, right? It's as if they hadn't sat down to just think in a long time. Or I see it in the way that their shoulders hang. It's in their eyes. Exhaustion is real. Burnout is real. They're things that all of us are susceptible to. Nobody is immune. And one of the trickiest things, I think, especially in our context here and now, is that we feel a lot of pressure to keep on going, right? We feel that, I think, as a community, as a church, we want to make sure that the church survives. So we must do something to get it to stay alive. We feel that as people living in this nation, we have to make sure that America gets back on track after this pandemic, right? We feel the weight of the world so often. And to top it off, we already lived in a fast-paced digital world where you can go through a drive-through and be in and out within like a minute, right? That is our norm now. That is what we expect. And we live in a digital world where you get pings on your phone all day long, asking for your attention, asking for you to do something, to respond, to read, to think. It can be a lot. And to top it off, we have a nation that is all about production. Produce more and do it bigger and better the next time. Produce, produce, produce. Right? In our nation, the standard question is, what do you do? Right? When we get to know people, it's not about who they are as much as what they do for a living. What do they produce? What do they do with their lives? So it's understandable that we would carry, both consciously and unconsciously, a lot of pressure, a lot of weight on our shoulders. So that's why I think today it's important that we talk about rest. What does that mean? What does that look like? So in 2016, Tricia Hersey, she founded a ministry called the Nap Ministry. And when I first saw this, I thought, is this a joke? The Nap Ministry. And yet, the more that I've come to see it, I mean, I follow her on Instagram, she has a blog, she does like art installations, things like that. The more that I really resonate with her work, the more I feel, yes, this is what I need. This is what I want. And I'm always challenged when I read something that she writes. It challenges especially this notion that I hold deep within me, even though I don't want to hold it, but I know that I do. It's this notion that rest is a reward for my work. You can rest when the work is done. That she says rather that rest is the foundation for our work. That there's no dreaming without rest. And the best work is done when we can dream about the big possibilities. So Tricia is not playing when it comes to rest. I mean, she really takes this work seriously and tries to model it herself. She's firmly rooted within Christian theology, and especially she draws a lot from Black liberation theology and womanist theology. If you don't know what those are, let's have a conversation because there's some really good stuff there. But she is really fighting to reclaim that rest is essential to our life. That it's not just something that we do for fun, it's not a leisurely activity. It's part of who we are. It's part of the rhythms of what we do. And yet we live in a world that increasingly asks us to give more time, more talent, more treasure over and over again. And so the thing that is important, especially I think to know about Tricia, is she situates herself within a tradition of recognizing that her ancestors were enslaved peoples, that her ancestors were people who did not get the benefit of saying, I'm going to rest when I want. They were at the mercy of others to grant them rest. And so she's aware, very much aware. There's a lot of work to do to make the world a better place for everyone. There's going to continue to be work to do. And she doesn't deny that. Yet she says we can't really do that work without this foundation of rest. So I think for us, when we look at our gospel reading today, Jesus gives us a really beautiful picture of this rest, of this retreat. So our passage today picks up right after last week's passage. There's literally no break in the passages. And this is actually the first of 3 times in Mark's gospel that we see Jesus leave the crowds and say, listen, I gotta get some rest, y'all. Y'all take care of it. I'm gonna come over here and take a break. So our passage starts with Jesus and his followers, right? Jesus just had a big day in the synagogue. If you remember from last week, Jesus went in the synagogue. It was his first time, at least Mark's gospel, teaching in the synagogue. He cast out a demon. I mean, it sounds exhausting if you ask me. So Jesus, I mean, all preachers, I think, deserve a Sunday afternoon nap, or in Jesus's case, a Sabbath afternoon nap. And Jesus doesn't even get that in the text, right? As soon as they leave, they go to Peter's house, and Peter's mother-in-law is there, and she's sick. She's got a fever. So Jesus, with a simple touch, raises her back up to life, and she's up on her feet again. She's ready to make a lunch for everybody. She's ready to go. So there we have it. But on this Sabbath day, the sun does set, and that marks the end of the Sabbath. which means that people think, I mean, in their ideology, you can't heal on the Sabbath. They don't know that Jesus was just healing on the Sabbath because it was behind closed doors. But in their ideology, you can't do that. So they say, listen, the sun has set. Bring all the sick people and demon-possessed people to Jesus right now, right? So Jesus has already had a full day. And now all these people are showing up at Peter's house looking for Jesus. So, I mean, it's a pretty big day for him. This is like his public opening. This is kind of like his debut. He's at a debutante ball, if you will, you know. He's got the beautiful dress and people are really impressed. They're like, Jesus has the goods, right? So Jesus comes in, he's liberating people from these oppressive demonic forces. He's healing people's diseases. And people are like, yes, this is good. This is what we want, Jesus. Good job. I mean, from a business perspective, you'd say this was a successful day, Jesus. This is what we want. This is the PR that we want. I mean, if he had a PR team, right, they would have created a great social media platform and there would be all these pics. I mean, you could have lots of great Instagram stories of Jesus in the crowds. You could have lots of like oohs and ahs. You could have interviews with people who were there. Like, think about the PR possibilities for this day. This is setting up Jesus real well for a great future. I mean, at least from a business perspective, we know the end of the story and we know that the end is death, but they don't know that at this point, right? So you can believe that Jesus probably was feeling a lot of things after this day. First, as we've already mentioned, Jesus did not get his afternoon preacher nap, so there's probably some exhaustion. And he's been taking care of people all day long. He's been meeting physical needs, spiritual needs, emotional needs. That's exhausting. And to do it for a lot of people back to back, I can't imagine. But on the other side, I imagine that there's probably some excitement for Jesus. When you're starting out, when you're making your big debut, you want people to receive you, right? It probably felt really good. There's probably a lot of energy around the fact that there's such a positive reception here. Sure, there's people who are perplexed by him. There's people who are curious. Some people may not be into it. But by and large, there are plenty of people who are into it. So being recognized feels good for everybody. It's a stroke of the ego to have people see that you've got something valuable to bring to the table. And I wonder if this is precisely why Jesus makes his next move, leaving, getting up early in the morning and going to a deserted place. You see, there's actually no desert really near Capernaum where Jesus is right now, but there's probably plenty of places that he can kind of find a little corner to tuck away and just hide out. It's a place where he can finally exhale and he can lay down all of the expectations that people have been placing on him. And I don't think that we can underestimate what this rest does for Jesus. Because the end result of the rest is that Jesus is able to really reconnect with what matters most to him. He's able to refocus, to tune out those other voices, and those voices have probably been ringing in his ears, right? Because it probably felt good to some degree. But the truth of the matter is people are still looking for Jesus, right? We see the disciples are hunting him down. They're looking for him because when they get there, they say, listen, Jesus, you got to keep the people happy. They're looking for you. There's work for you to do, and it's not here. It's not in your little deserted place. It's over there. And Jesus has a choice when this happens, right? It probably would have been the easy thing, and it probably would have felt really good in the moment to say, let's give the people what they want. Let's continue to live in the success of yesterday. We know that what we did yesterday worked. We know that people liked it and responded well, so let's keep doing it. Because yesterday's success usually feels pretty damn good, right? It feels good to be successful. But Jesus chooses another way. Instead of looking at yesterday, he looks at tomorrow. And he says, you know what? This isn't really just what I'm here for. Yes, that was great. And yes, that's part of what I'm here for. But there are people whose names I don't know yet. There are faces that I haven't seen yet. There are people that Jesus has in mind in this moment that he knows he's going to meet down the road. And he says, I haven't come just for the people of Capernaum. I've come for more people than that. He's getting really clear on what his mission is. What is his vision? What is he here to do? And it's really important that he rests, because that's the place where he can dream. That's the place where he can reconnect, where he can pause and listen to what's going on within himself. And it's when he can listen to what's going on within himself that that voice, that spirit, that voice of God emerges from deep within him. And he's able to discern the next step. He may not be able to see the whole picture, but he knows the next thing. So I think before each of us lies the same choice. We can all choose to live in yesterday's successes. And I think that there is some degree to which it's important to remember the successes of yesterday, because it builds our belief in the successes of tomorrow. We can reminisce about the good old days. We can remember what was good. We can connect to what we loved about it and what felt good. But we also can't forget what was difficult or painful about the old days. We can't remember them just as perfect. We have to remember that there is a future ahead waiting for us. And I think the other temptation is for us to get caught up in giving people what they want. There are lots of people with lots of needs, right? And there's no possible way to meet all of them. There is absolutely no person on earth who can meet everybody's need and do it perfectly. There's going to be lots of voices, though, over and over again in our lives who seek our attention, the power that we do have, the care that we can give, or any number of things. And we can't possibly respond to all of them. So I think, like Trisha from the Nap Ministry, and like Jesus from Nazareth, the choice that is in front of us is to be able to say, we can just be people who react. We can be people who say, oh my gosh, there's a need here, there's a need there, there's a need there, let's try to meet all of them. Or we can, like Jesus and Trisha, choose to intentionally withdraw from all that begs for our attention to find moments of rest. And it doesn't have to be rest that's perfect. It doesn't have to be like 20 hours of sleep. But sometimes we just need rest that is enough. And sometimes what is enough is just in the moment saying, you know what, I just need to use the restroom real quick, and going into the bathroom and spending a minute breathing, getting back in touch with your body, reminding yourself of what the bigger picture is, right? It's a moment to tune into ourselves. We all need these recentering moments. And there are always going to be those temptations that will say, listen, do this, do that, do this, do that. And usually the problem is that they're good things to do. It's not like we're often presented with lots of bad options. We're usually presented with lots of good options. And the choice isn't to say, what is the good option, but what is the better option? What is more in line with what's happening right now? What is it that we're really discerning is our work to do? And of course, it doesn't just apply to us as individuals, but it's also for us as a community. It matters that we take the time to slow down, to check in with each other. And it matters that we seek to remember, what is our ministry here for? Why are we doing this thing? Right? Why do we gather here? What is it that we are here to do? But I think to even begin to ask these questions together, I think we have to learn to practice to find that deserted place of rest. So as we come to a close, I want to actually allow us to find space to practice that deserted place within ourselves. Because rest is not a reward for our work. It is the necessary foundation for our work. So over these next few moments, I invite you to shift. to find a posture that is relaxed, but also alert. So if you can, I would invite you to put both your feet flat on the floor and either put your hands in your lap or on your knees. And once you're in a posture that works for you, I invite you to either find a fixed gaze or close your eyes. So let's start by deepening our breath together. We'll inhale deeply and slowly exhale. We'll inhale deeply again. Slowly exhale. And one more time together. Let's inhale deeply. And this time we're going to sigh out our exhale. Notice the way that your body sinks into your seat. Notice the ground beneath your feet. Notice your breath. You notice your chest rising and falling. So over these next few moments, we're going to try an exercise that will help us connect with our breath. So on the inhale, I want you to imagine that you are breathing in the color blue. And on the exhale, imagine that you're breathing out the color red. So inhale in blue. And exhale out red. Inhale in blue. Exhale out red. Inhale in blue. Exhale out red. And just keep doing this as long as it's helpful. And during this process, you'll notice that thoughts are going to come into your mind. These thoughts are like clouds passing through the sky. And when you see them, just say to yourself, thinking, thinking, thinking. And then gently guide your focus back to your breath. Blue on the inhale, red on the exhale. Well, from this settled state, I invite you to think of a place that you know that is safe. A place where you are at ease and you can truly relax. This can be a real place that you've been to or that you go all the time, or it can be an imagined place. Either way, I just want you to bring that place into your focus. So as you settle into that place, what is it that you feel? And you just name some of those feelings right now for yourself. What are you doing in this place? Is there anyone with you? But this is your safe place. It is a place of rest, a place of comfort, hope. This is a place that you can choose to return over and over again. And the more that you come here, the more accessible it will be to you in the moments that you need it most. This is a place that you can go to find refuge from the overwhelming realities of life. It's not a place to escape life. It's a place to empower you to connect to life. It's a place where you can remember who you are underneath all of the pressures placed upon you. You don't have to make anything here or produce anything. You don't have to meet anyone's need here. All you have to do is exist. You can just be you. What people think about you does not matter here. You can rest. So spend a few more moments in this place. Now, as you prepare to leave this safe place, this place of rest, look at yourself. Remind yourself that you are worthy of love. Remind yourself that you belong to yourself. And say to yourself, I'll be back soon. Spirit of God, you have created our minds with great power. The power to imagine new world, the power to imagine a world where we can be ourselves, where we can embrace ourselves fully, where we can learn to embrace each other. So help us, God, to connect to this place within ourselves, to find rest from all of the pressures, to find rest from the need to be something for everyone else, to follow Jesus into the deserted, quiet place. Give us the courage and the strength to draw the boundaries that we need to draw. Help us to really discern what our work is to do. Help us to be flexible, to be able to change as your Spirit invites us. We trust you. We lean into a future that you are drawing us towards. Help us as we walk this journey. Amen.